And joining me once again, alongside me, Tom White is here for a special look here at cash tags. And for that, we bring in Landon Swan, co-founder of Likefolio, and we're taking a look at Alphabet. Now, this has been a big winner. When you look at these Mag 7, particularly, even in the fourth quarter, it has moved to new highs of 328. 1 year to date, it's up over 65%. So let's get this going here, and we'll start it off here. Tom, your first, when you think about this, your first thoughts.
Sorry. Me? I'll take it. Yeah. So Google, I mean, if you look at where they've gone, in the last year, yeah, it's up significantly. But even if you go back to April, it gets even better. I mean, they were 140 in April. They're 314 now. It's about 124%. And I think it's basically a narrative shift on Wall Street. It's gone from an AI is going to maybe beat up this company, and I'll be the first to admit I was singing that a year ago. AI is a threat to Google. Now it's AI. They might be the king of AI. They might leverage this like nobody else, and all of their other business units are doing really well. So that doesn't hurt. But yeah, I think AI has kind of moved from this giant threat to this giant opportunity. And that's a huge move for investors, and it's reflected in the stock price. So just when you look at how well Gemini has done, I mean, their monthly active users are up 7x on a year-over-year basis. And when you look at the number of people, going to Google Gemini versus GPT, it's up 300% versus it's up 67%. Now, both of them are growing. Now, keep in mind that this is growth, right? So GPT is still much larger. I think they're 85% of the AI chat share. But Gemini is closing fast. Grok's doing well. Perplexity's doing well. They're all kind of coming after GPT, who is the early dominant leader and still is. But Gemini is making big strides towards that. And, they're getting to the point where now daily active users of Gemini are putting in about 4 queries a day, whereas GPT is almost double that at 7.5 queries per day. The interesting thing, though, is that if you look at the monthly active users of Gemini, only about 10% of them are daily active users. That number for ChatGPT is about 27%. So 1 out of 10 versus 1 out of 4, roughly. To give some reference, Snapchat's about 50%, Facebook's about 70%. So still people are dipping their toes into Gemini as monthly active users, and I'm sure there is a ton of crossover between people who use GPT and Gemini and all the others. So everybody's kind of feeling it out. And if you've been paying attention to this sort of arms race of AI, you know that as one model jumps up and becomes the latest of its version, it jumps to the top, and then another one from another competitor jumps to the top, and there's this leapfrogging action where they're continually outperforming each other. So I think that is the biggest move for investors, is from AI as a threat to AI is a huge, huge opportunity, and Google seems to be taking advantage of it. I mean, even their search is still doing well. Their search is up 7% on paid clicks on a year-over-year basis, while the cost per click is also up 7%. So, they're doing really well on search, and we haven't even started talking about, how well they're doing on cloud and how well they're doing on streaming. So overall, I think investors are starting to move from that iffy situation to very, very bullish optimism for the future.
Landon, when you look at this, I understand the Gemini comparisons skewed a little bit just because they didn't have that many users before. So the growth rate's there. As far as the reviews go on Gemini, they've been better. The cloud growth, they're digging into Amazon's, market share leader in that space also, as far as the growth rate goes. But when you look at Gemini, and this is just maybe from my example, I wanted to get your take on this. When I go into, do a Google search like I used to, Gemini pops up there, and I can do an AI deeper dive, and it's right there. So doesn't that just make sense if you're going to choose one of these AI agents moving forward in the future, that, hey, why not just stick with what you know? And if it's a great product, are you guys still seeing that where, hey, they're going to continue to dig in to ChatGPT share just because it's maybe easier than because of what people used prior to this?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, not being the leader was a huge disadvantage. GPT jumped out, and everyone who wanted to try AI chat jumped on in. They were the ones to use. But now it's in your face. Google's obviously the default search engine for everyone. And now you've got Gemini in your face, and it's giving you the AI overview, which is exactly what they need to do. The revenue from that actually is very close to search. They're doing very well on that. So that is, that's their way of catching up. And so, we often talk about the value of user bases. I talked about it with Meta, and Google's got one of the largest user bases in the world. And so they have the ability to roll things out and catch up very quickly. But that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to win. I mean, you can take a look at Apple Music versus Spotify, right? I mean, everybody has an iPhone, and you open it up, and Apple Music is the app to go to. But Spotify beat them because they built the better mousetrap. Now, which one's better, I think, depends on the month that you talk about, and depends on who you're talking about, what the use case is. But I do think that the difference between like a Spotify and Apple Music is much greater than the difference between GPT and Gemini or Grok or Perplexity. So I think they're all kind of vying for the lead in usability, and then it's just who's going to get the message out, and obviously Google's going to win there. And then when you look at some of the other segments, I mean, you just talked about their cloud. They're crushing it on cloud. The revenue's up 34% year over year. Income's up about 85%. Our data showed about a plus 28% move, so it's right in line with their revenue. And they are the ones that are increasing on a year-over-year basis. The other two, the big ones that we look at, Microsoft and Amazon, are actually declining on a year-over-year basis versus Google Cloud. So doing very well there. And then, of course, streaming. YouTube is the #1 streamer. They get about 13% of TV time in the US. Netflix, for reference, is second at 8%. And so they've got tons and tons of eyeballs, tons and tons of users, and they're continuing to expand their lead. Netflix is kind of going sideways, and we talked about this. The competition is unbelievable for them, whereas, YouTube, they are a content machine because you got so many users making content for you. Netflix doesn't have that advantage. They have to constantly chase and either license new stuff or create new stuff, whereas YouTube's just like, here, build it, and we'll share some revenue with you. It's an incredible platform, and they're really dominating. So, every major component of Google is doing extremely well. You can also throw Waymo in there. I think that Tesla's going to beat them, but they're also giving it a shot. We'll see. That's kind of the moonshot play for them. Maybe it works out, maybe it doesn't. It's a huge business division, but for Google, it's a footnote, and rightfully so, just because of how large they are. But overall, again, this is just a move from AI is going to kill this company to I think this company can really leverage AI, and that's what they're starting to do.
And Landon, I'll just add that AI certainly seems to be driving not only the last few years, but also going forward. It doesn't seem to be stopping at any point. I mean, there's still such a fascination and CapEx spend and circular funding. And, for example, the DeepMind chief, Demis Hassabis, had The Thinking Game, the documentary, on YouTube, and already surpassed 200 million views on YouTube just in 1 month alone. And it's about his AI lab. I also think that Mark Benioff really flagged the difference between Gemini 3 and ChatGPT, because he had said he was using ChatGPT for 3 years. Once he used Gemini 3, he said, that's it, I'm switching. And he gave a whole list of reasons why he thought it was the better choice. So maybe ChatGPT is more mainstream, like you're saying, but I'm very curious in a year or two, what will we be saying then? A great conversation. Both of you, Tom and Landon, thank you both. What a great conversation there. Landon Swan, co-founder of Likefolio.